Hey everybody, this is Rustin Rose of Access Entertainment, and today with us, Gary Pihl of Boston. How are you doing, brother?
Hey, real good. We're on the road, and so that's the place for a musician to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I was going to say, you've been making music for basically a half century. Does it sort of seem surreal some nights to be on stage performing some of rock's most iconic songs as part of one of America's most legendary bands at this point in your life?
Well, that, of course, is a thrill that I never get over, yeah. Standing on stage, playing the songs, watching the audience smile and sing along. I mean, there's no better feeling than that.
I can only imagine because I get to watch it through you guys, but, you know, having been in the industry for years, I mean, I remember going back and seeing you when you were playing in the Bay Area and all the projects you were working on, but last year...
Oh, no kidding.
Oh, yeah, I'm a Bay Area boy, so... Now, last year, Boston released its sixth studio album, Life, Love, and Hope. So much has changed in music over the last 25 years. How difficult is it to create a new album fans will embrace when they still expect another Don't Look Back, another Third Stage, another album like the brilliant 1976 debut?
You know, I've heard Tom talk about that, and he just says, hey, here's where I am. I hope people like it, you know, and just goes for it. I mean, just, you know, again, it's his instinct about what should and shouldn't be on the record and how to approach it and that sort of thing. And if people say, well, I love it, it sounds, and of course some people said, wow, it sounds like, you know, the first few records, or some of the songs sound like the first few records. And,
right.
And other people say, well, and some of the songs sound like completely new stuff, too. So, you know, it's all good as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But, you know, we'll just take it wherever it goes.
And as long as it's good, that's really all that should matter. Unfortunately, so many people get stuck in it must sound like this. But now you've been working side by side with Tom Scholz for nearly 3 decades, debuting on 1986's Third Stage album. But you met Tom on Boston's first major tour when you were part of Sammy Hagar's band. You guys obviously have a real connection to work side by side for 30 years. What sort of drew you together?
Well, you're exactly right. I was in Sammy Hagar's band, and Sammy's manager knew Boston's manager, and we got to open up the last couple of weeks of their first tour, which was 77, and they liked us, we liked them, and they said, hey, you guys should open the entire second U.S. tour for us when we go out next year. So from 78 into 79, we traveled around the country with them, you know, everywhere, and played. And so, yeah, I've been on every Boston tour, but the first 2 tours I was in the opening act. I got to know Tom at that point, of course, and he had a shared interest of mine, and that's electronics, of course. And Tom's such a smart guy. I was always asking him, hey, how do you get this sound? What are you doing? And what's that thing there? You know. And so he was kind enough to tell me about it. And then when he heard that Sammy left our band to join Van Halen, he gave me a call to say, hey, would you come and help us finish the Third Stage album? There was one more song to be recorded. And so I said, just about fell off my chair. I said, oh, absolutely. And so I left from our last gig with Sammy, which was Farm Aid 1 in Champaign, Illinois.
Right.
Flew directly from there to start working with Tom, and been there ever since.
Which song was that on Third Stage?
It's called I Think I Like It.
Nice.
And so that's Tom and I trading off solos there, and we actually do that live here still today.
Yeah, now, well, take us back, if you would, to recording that first record with Boston. What stands out for you most from that time and that experience? Because there was a whole lot of stuff going on. Obviously, you had just been doing so well with Hagar. Now you're in Boston, and they're so big and everything, and it just had to be a sort of surreal experience.
Absolutely, yeah. I wasn't quite sure what to expect. Again, after knowing Tom for those years, I knew that he was certainly a perfectionist and knew his way around the studio, that's for sure. Of course, in my mind, he invented home recording, because up until then, you had to go into, you know, an official recording studio to make a record. But he did it all at home, and again, in my mind, started that revolution of people saying, well, gee, if he can do it, so can I, you know. So I wasn't quite sure, but so you know, obviously we worked on the song, and then when it came time to actually record it, he said, well, look, you know how to run the recording gear, which I did, And he said, "Here, you just do it. I'm going to go upstairs and have lunch." So he left the room and said, "There it is. Punch in, just do your thing." And so, I was on my own doing it. So that was unique.
Well, I often ask artists to give me 2 or 3 records that changed their life. So it made me wonder, for you, was the Boston debut album one of those life-changing albums for you?
Yes, it certainly was. I remember where I was when I first heard it. I was driving down the street in my hometown at the time of Petaluma, California, pulled up to a stoplight, and there was a car in front of me. Obviously, the light was red, and the guy in the car in front of me jumps out of the car, runs back to me, and then I see, it's somebody I know. And he goes, "Quick, turn on the radio. You got to hear this. This is Boston. This is the most amazing stuff ever." So, of course, I, flipped on the station, and there was More Than a Feeling. I said, "Wow, what is that sound?" It was just so unique at the time that, it just caught fire. Everybody else in the country said, that is something really special. So, and then in Sammy's band, just months after that, opening up for Boston, that was a dream come true. And as you say, very surreal, wow, I was just in a club band playing that song, and now I'm on tour with these guys. So it was really something special.
It's all very cyclical and circular, I tell you. But and you were a fan, obviously, of the band before you became a member. So is there a song that still sort of gives you chills every time you perform it?
A lot of them, tell you the truth. And what makes it for me is the audience. When we're playing along, people ask us, "Well, gee, are you tired of playing the same songs for 30 years?" I said, "Well, I would if we had to just sit in the basement and play these songs." But, it transcends that. We're on stage, people are smiling, and all of a sudden they'll just start singing along, louder than the band. And, I tell you, I got a lump in my throat. It's something really special.
Now, you've had the opportunity to spend the majority of your career playing on stage with 2 freakishly inspiring songwriter and guitarists in Sammy and Tom.
Yeah.
What is the one thing that you've taken away from each of them as a musician and as a person?
Of course, people ask me that. What's the difference between Sammy and Tom? And Sammy is what you see is what you get. He's a fun-loving guy, always in a good mood, and, of course, a terrific singer. And so, everything he does is hey, this is going to be better than the next time. And it always was. Every year I was in the band, we played bigger places and our records sold more. And, it's just up, up, up. So it was a wonderful experience. Tom, as you probably know, always ends up on those 100 greatest guitar player lists, of all time, the 100 greatest guitar players. But he also shows up on the 100 greatest keyboard players of all time. And there's nobody else in the world that's on both of those lists. And then you throw in, top 100 rock songs of all time. There's always a Boston song or two on there. And then he's the engineer and producer. He built the amplifiers that we're still using today on stage. So he's a really special guy. And I'm just fortunate to be, around him to pick up on some of it.
Oh, yeah, and they are. They're very totally different people, but very inspiring and unique in their own ways. So, as we alluded to earlier, you spent a number of years recording 9 studio albums, and I think at least 1 live album with Sammy, VOA, which was 30 years ago this year. Voice of America was 30 years ago this year, and you guys were really breaking out. Then, of course, Sammy got the Van Halen call, you got the Boston call. But what do you remember from making that last record, Voice of America? I Can't Drive 55, that whole thing was just breaking out, and then you guys had to go to your separate ways.
Yeah, that was too bad. And, of course, when Sammy got the call from Van Halen, he came to us and said, this just seems like an offer I can't refuse, And so, of course, we said, hey, go for it, you got to do it. And we were sorry to break up the band. And he said the same thing. He said, man, working with you guys has been terrific. We really felt we were locked in and we could do anything on stage. We would just do new songs, on the spot. Sammy would write a song that afternoon, say, hey, let's do this on stage tonight. It was, okay, sure. That's the kind of band we were. We felt like we could do anything. Now, whether it sounded good or not, that's up to the audience. But we had that freedom and, just go for it attitude. So that was, a great experience. So we went in to do the record, and we did the whole thing in 12 days.
Wow.
And and we played live in the studio again because we had played together, so much over the last. Well, of course, I was with him for 8 years. That we were just all locked in. So we just played, all the music tracks first, and then did all the lead vocals and background vocals for a few days. And then Sammy and I did the solos for a couple of days, and we were done. So it went very fast.
So, and in the full circle of incestuousness, Night Ranger is doing some touring with Boston right now. As a matter of fact, you guys will both be here this Wednesday in Boise, Idaho, when I get a chance to see you. You have a long-standing connection to them. Can you share that story for the fans who may be unaware?
Sure. Alan Fitzgerald, alias Fitz, was the original keyboard player from Night Ranger. But he used to be in Sammy Hagar's band. When I joined Sammy, Fitz was the keyboard player.
Right.
And actually, it was during our time opening up for Boston that Fitz got the call from Ronnie Montrose. Of course, he used to be in Montrose, as did Sammy. So you had all ties together here, right? Montrose was putting a band back together, and he asked Fitz to come back and play in the band. So Fitz quit the Sammy Hagar band to go back with Montrose, and he did that for an album or so, and then he wanted to start his own band. And so, because I kept in touch with Fitz because he's a great guy and all that, and I was going to head to Europe with Sammy, and I said, look, Fitz, why don't you stay at my house? Because Fitz was saying, I want to record some songs, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, I get some recording equipment at my house. And why don't you stay there? That way, somebody will be in the house while I'm gone. And so while I was gone, he, in essence, formed Night Ranger, and half the guys were staying in my house while I was out of town and recording stuff. So when I got back, I heard some of the recordings they had done, and they were a little bit crude. And so we said, well, look, I can, let's do some serious recording here. So I recorded about a dozen demo songs for them, one of which was Sister Christian. And they got their first record deal. In fact, I even mixed live sound for them. They had a showcase, and they needed somebody to mix for them. So I did that too. So It was a lot of fun seeing the guys, really get together. And I really liked the songs and, of course, the musicianship from the get-go. So it was a real pleasure to do that.
Right, and as I mentioned when we first got on the phone, I just literally hung up with Brad, and he was saying what an integral part you were of that initial putting everything together so that they could get that record deal. It's sort of weird how that all comes back around. So,
I had some recording equipment in my house, and I, for my own purposes, for writing songs and working on Sammy stuff. But I had other friends in the area that I would record just for free, just because I enjoyed their music and wanted to help them. And so somebody from every band I recorded went on to make gold records, like Paul Taylor from Winger,
right?
Eric Martin from Mr. Big, Jimmy Ralston that went on to play with Tina Turner, of course Denny Carmassi that went on to play with Heart, Brett and Donnie Baldwin went on to play with Starship, and it kind of goes, I look back and I say, wow, I had some great friends at the time. So, and again, just enjoyed doing it.
Absolutely. What else is going on in the world of Gary Pihl? I know last year you did the Color 3 Paint by Number album. What else have you got up your sleeve right now?
Yes, this year actually for the last few years at the holiday season, I've been working with a bunch of guys that call ourselves December people. And so it's other guys from other famous groups, mostly based in California, and we get together and play traditional holiday songs, but in the styles of other rock bands. So we'll do like Santa Claus is Coming to Town as if ZZ Top would do it.
Oh, nice.
So instead of saying, oh, ho, ho, we say, oh, ho, ho. and we start a song that sounds like The Who doing Pinball Wizard, the acoustic guitar, chang, 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 chang. But we go into Joy to the World, So of course the audience loves it. They get the joke, and they can sing along because it is the actual holiday songs, but again in the styles of other rock bands. In fact, one of our fans from the audience said, "Hey, you guys should do White Christmas as if Billy Idol were doing White Wedding. So we do, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. And again, the audience loves it, and every show we do is a benefit for a local food bank. So we're thrilled to be able to give back to the community at that time of year.
That is fantastic. Gary Pihl of Boston, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us a little bit. We look forward to seeing you out on tour, and be safe out there.
Well, thanks. If you can make it to the show in Boise, please stop by so I can shake your hand and meet you in person.
I will be there, my friend. I'll see you then.